Congressman Dan Crenshaw is on the front lines of the fight against cartels worldwide, and he joins us from a Southcom facility in Puerto Rico tonight. Congressman Crenshaw, thank you so much for joining us. Look, today we saw this incredible Operation Absolute Resolve happen. It's been so big, and so many people have talked about so many aspects of it. But you're a person who actually lived in Venezuela before the destruction of socialism flooded the country. So give us your reaction to this morning's mission.
Look, I think my reaction is similar to many Venezuelans. There's also a huge population of Venezuelans who have fled the country in the Houston area where I represent. As you mentioned, my family lived there right after I left for high school, actually. So I've been there a lot. I know the country very well, and it was a prosperous, lovely country. You know, we're a Houston oil and gas family. That's why my family was living there. And Venezuelans around the world, as you noted, are celebrating because Maduro has been in charge for decades, has destroyed the country slowly. That's what socialism, communism does. It eats away at a society and an economy slowly. And we've been talking about it forever. We've been giving moral support to the opposition as they bravely took the streets with hundreds of thousands of people, but we never took the action required. And it's been really amazing to see the president take that bold action.
Absolutely. And look, you've been actually on the front lines of the war on drugs as a member of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. So what happens now after Maduro's capture with drug cartels? What does this do to their operations?
Yeah, you know, and people often ask what the connection is between the cocaine smuggling in South America and the fentanyl production in Mexico. And the answer is, look, the Mexican cartels truly are the bosses that control all of it. There's a supply chain that comes out of Colombia that is not just allowed to happen by Maduro, the Venezuelans, but was, you know, he profits from it. He coordinated it. That's why the DOJ has an arrest warrant for him. And people need to understand the legality of this. This is very much a DOJ operation. This is us going after a criminal and then putting him on trial. It's understandable also why this was kept such a secret too, because of the sensitivity surrounding such an operation and the risk to force if it were to be let out. And so it's definitely a message to cartels, to two things: cartels in Mexico for sure, because their bottom line is definitely hurt when you take out cocaine smuggling. Cocaine smuggling, while it may not seem like an existential threat to a lot of people, they have to understand it fuels the cartels in Mexico that produce fentanyl and that kill hundreds of thousands of people on our streets. It's also a message to any dictators in any countries that might want to be harboring terrorists or actually helping them in this case.
Absolutely. Well, you know, you just mentioned that there were some people who were a little upset, some of your colleagues on the other side of the aisle, about not being notified as Congress by the president about this operation. Take a listen to what they had to say.
We called members of Congress immediately after. This was not the kind of mission that you can do congressional notification on. It was a trigger-based mission in which conditions had to be met night after night. We watched and monitored that for a number of days. So it's just simply not the kind of mission you can call people and say, hey, we may do this at some point in the next 15 days. But it's largely a law enforcement function.
Yeah, so our Secretary of State obviously laying out the reasons, Congressman, that it would be challenging to notify Congress. And of course, the president said today, he said, we got a lot of leakers in Congress as well. We don't need a leak on this. So what is your response to the Democrats or the people who are upset with the fact that the president and Secretary of State did not notify Congress?
I think their response, as you just played it, is exactly right. The legality is very well established. The legality for an operation like this, similar to Noriega in the past, similar to Obama's legal actions against Gaddafi in Libya. You know, you're going after a person who's indicted in U.S. courts, and you're going after someone who we've established as an imminent danger to U.S. national security. Because they're leading terrorist organizations effectively. You're talking about someone who is not a recognized actual leader of Venezuela, not recognized by the Trump administration, not recognized by the Biden administration, not recognized by most European nations. So the legality, I think, is on firm footing. Now, going forward, of course, I do think Congress does need to be involved, and we will absolutely work that.
Well, earlier today, I want to get to a post that you put on X. You said that this mission was about liberation, not about aggression. So expand on your thought process there and any people out there who might be critical of Operation Absolute Resolve.
Yeah, I mean, look no further than the reaction of just about every Venezuelan around the world. I know many. Again, there are so many Venezuelans in the Houston area, and I've never met one who doesn't immediately tell us that we need to do more to get rid of Maduro so they can go back home. And I would say this to my Democrat colleagues: you can't have these two thoughts in your head at the same time. You can't be angry if say, President Trump wanted to get rid of the temporary protected status for Venezuelan immigrants. And you can't say, oh, well, we want to take care of the root problems that cause illegal immigration, and then be also mad when you take care of the root problems of illegal immigration, like a communist dictator that destroyed his country and made everyone flee. You know, they can't have both of those thoughts in their head. But then again, they don't have a lot of thoughts in their head to begin with.
There were some folks who were claiming, Congressman, that this was not an America First move to go in and capture Maduro, bring him back to the United States for prosecution, obviously, for his crimes. I can't think of something more America First than ensuring that a person like this, who had a $50 million bounty on his head, was brought to justice. Your quick response to that.
Yeah, exactly. Look, it's too many people think America first means America alone and letting China, Russia, Iran, Venezuela, Cuba, North Korea just dictate terms around the world. That's insane. America first is exactly what President Trump has been doing this first term. It's been bold and aggressive, strategic, but also it's just very tactically precise in every instance, from this one to Iran to his dealings with Russia. It's been very impressive. He's been very involved around the world. America first is America leading and winning. And I think that's what President Trump has always meant by it, and that's what we need to mean by it. And too many other people have assumed that it means just America pretending the world doesn't exist.
That's right. Well, Congressman Dan Crenshaw, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being with us on this very important evening.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.